Good evening, Covington community. Mr. Wozak here, joining you on this Thursday evening with our Read Aloud. In regards to the Read Aloud, reminder that if you did not have a chance to join me yesterday on Wednesday, that we are actually be doing a book over a 3-day span. So if you did not see yesterday's video, I suggest you go do so, because the book that we had Wednesday is the book that we're going to be continuing tonight and finishing tomorrow. Hopefully this video finds everybody well. It was very nice to be able to get outside today, and I think tomorrow's weather is supposed to be pretty nice as well. So I was able to get outside for a little bit. They're actually building a new building about 2 blocks from here, so my 2-year-old loves to go over and see all the different trucks and everything that they're using to help build it. So hopefully you all had a chance to get outside and get some fresh air and some sun as well. So back to our Read Aloud book. If you remember yesterday, the book that we're reading is titled Grace Hopper, Queen of Computer Code. And we read about 1/3 of the book, and it left off where she was failing a class in high school and needed to really do well on it to go to college with her friends. So she tried really hard, she studied very hard, and then she passed. And that is where we left off on our book. So we'll be reading about the middle third today, and then we'll be finishing it tomorrow. So if you remember about Grace Hopper, she is an individual. This is based on a true story, so remember that. And we kind of started in her childhood where she was very curious, and she always liked to solve problems. And she even sometimes made her own problems, like some people said. She purposely broke a clock to see how it works, and then broke a few others to see how they all worked, and then put them together. And so I think problem solver was one of the things that we kind of talked about with how we would describe her. Also somebody, and I think actually it was the book who said troublemaker, which I'm still a little intrigued by, but we also use the word perseverance, because she's somebody who seems to take those problems and work really hard towards solving them, like the problem about her not doing very well in her Latin class in high school. So where we are right now is she went back and she passed her class, and now she's headed off to college. So here we are, Grace Hopper, Queen of Computer Code, Part 2. With her trunks packed and her math books in hand, Grace left for Vassar College, an all-women's school. Some of her classmates took classes called Husbands and Wives and Motherhood, but not Grace. Her favorite subjects were math and physics. Grace did more in college than just study. Whenever there was fun or adventure to be found, she was always the first in line. Her personal motto was, "Dare and do." When a barnstormer came to town offering plane rides, Grace rushed to sign up. A quote from her actually here. "I squandered all my money. It cost $10 and went up in the plane." She pulled herself up into the seat behind the pilot and adjusted her goggles. With a deafening roar, the propeller sputtered into action. The biplane rattled across the field and lifted off, with each loop-de-loop through the air. Grace's grin grew wider and wider. Because of Grace's hard work and intelligence, the other students respected her abilities. They often came to her for help with their studies. One day, her fellow students entered the room only to see a bathtub filled to the brim with water. Grace invited a volunteer to step into the tub, clothes and all. Water sloshed over the edges and flooded the floor, and the students burst into laughter. Grace explained the reason for this tidal wave. The volume of the student's body pushed out the same volume of water. The result? One soggy student, wrapped in a towel, and one math lesson never forgotten. When Grace moved on to graduate school at Yale University, there was only one other woman in her class. This didn't bother Grace in the least. Grace wanted to share her passion for math, so she took a job teaching at Vassar College. Her classes were always both practical and fun. Even though Grace loved teaching, America was now at war and needed the best mathematicians to design weapons. Patriotic Grace wanted to help her country, so she tried to enlist in the Navy, and that proved to be a problem. Based on the Navy's requirements for new recruits at the time, Grace was too old and too skinny to enlist. She was 36 and weighed only 105 pounds. Grace could be very persuasive, however. It took her more than a year, but Grace convinced the Navy that they needed her. Because of her superior math skills, Grace was assigned to write programs for one of the first computers ever built, the Mark I. Only a few people had ever programmed before, so she had to learn how to do it on her own. One late summer day, a coworker burst into Grace's office. The new computer, the Mark II, had stopped working. She gasped. This had never happened before, not with any of her programs. Grace thought it had to be a prank. After all, she loved playing jokes on her coworkers. Maybe the other engineers were getting their revenge, but they weren't. The computer really wasn't working. For hours, Grace and her team reviewed the code but could find no error. It was as if the green ceramic gremlin that always sat in Grace's office had come to life and sneaked into her machine to make mischief. That was it. Maybe the problem wasn't in her program. Maybe it was in the computer. Grace jumped to her feet and hurried down the hall. The immense computer room usually thrummed with the click of metal switches and whir of paper tape, but today was silent. I'm going to stop reading right there, actually. I think that's a good spot for us to leave a little bit, hanging on the edge a little bit right there. But there is a quote on this one page that I want to share. I have insatiable curiosity. It's solving problems. Every time you solve a problem, another one shows up behind it. And that's the challenge. And I think that's a great quote for us to leave off on today, because we see, these challenges, and we saw them when she was a younger person. We see them now when she's working with computers in the Navy. You see that she's coming up with these problems all the time. And the way that she views these problems as it's like a challenge to solve. We all are faced with problems on a daily basis, some of them small, some of them bigger, but I think it's really all about how we look at those problems. Do we look at them as something that is going to be bigger than us, or do we look at them as a challenge that we can work to overcome? And I think that we know the best way is to look at them as a challenge and think about how we can work really hard to overcome those problems. I think another really interesting aspect of the book is, I'm right now recording this on my computer, and most of you are watching them on a computer or some sort of device like that. And I think it's also really interesting to see just how far computers have come, and just how interesting it is with technology as part of our lives, and just, I don't know. I'm very intrigued and interested by all that. And I do have a friend who actually is a coder, and he makes video games. And even though I don't like video games, I'm still very interested whenever I talk to him. And I still ask a lot of questions whenever I talk to him, just because I find it so interesting, everything that goes into that. So with that being said, boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, we are going to conclude day 2 of Grace Hopper, Queen of Computer Code. Tomorrow, Friday evening, we will finish up this book and we will come up to the ending of the book. So again, if hopefully you've enjoyed it Wednesday and Thursday so far, and very interested and intrigued to see how it ends. Again, remember that Grace Hopper, this book is written about a real individual, and if you're interested, look her up, Grace Hopper, Hopper. She is a person that did work a lot with computer code. This is all very true, all written, all about her. So check her out for some more information. She's a very, very interesting and inspirational person. So if you have some time, feel free to check her out. But for now, this is Mr. Wozniak saying see you soon.